You know that the most retweeted tweet ever was about chicken nuggets?
Makes sense.
Did you hear about that?
No.
Yeah, some kid tweeted at Wendy's and said, like, how many retweets to get like a year's supply of chicken nuggets or something? Mm-hmm. And Wendy's said, just as like a joke, like, oh, like, you know, like 1 million retweets or something, or like 500,000 retweets or something, thinking, oh, there's no way he's going to get it. But he actually got it, and so he's just like, well, you told him that, so now you...
That's hilarious.
The second most retweeted tweet is Ellen DeGeneres' thing at the Oscars, where she took a picture with like a bunch of the Oscar winners. At one point, the most retweeted one before that was Barack Obama after the election. Thank you all. It's great to win the election, basically. Like the 2 and 3 don't surprise you nearly as much as 1. But those are like the records for like most retweeted tweets.
That's funny.
So, anyways, welcome back to our sessions here. We're in our last session, session 4, evangelizing via social media. We've talked about, you know, the basic fundamental basis of social media, the social media mindset, evangelizing that mindset. And now we're going to talk about evangelizing specifically on social media. I think there's a few different important points here to start off with. I'm going to start with 2 introductory slides. First, Eric Coleman, who wrote Socialnomics, very interesting book, and he says that companies don't have the choice whether they do social media, they have the choice how well they do it. And I think it's the same for churches, either locally or globally. You know, your parish really doesn't have a choice whether it does social media. People are going to post social media about your parish, period. The question is it going to be good social media or bad social media? People are going to post about what the Pope says. It's inevitable. The question is whether it's going to be good social media or bad social media. That's the only question. There is no longer a way you could have anything other than maybe the most private or most small group meeting that isn't possible or isn't even likely to become part of social media. But an interesting thing here is that in many ways, making multiple mistakes, at least small ones, within social media is far better than doing nothing at all. You don't learn by doing nothing. Obviously, if you make like a totally ridiculous mistake, it is problematic. But to make a totally ridiculous mistake, you have to completely misunderstand things that would be imprudent whether you knew social media or not. For example, there was a series of hashtags about domestic abuse, why I stayed. And a company that makes cakes posted why I stayed. They have cake and had a picture of their cake, which was like, total, like, you read what the hashtag's about first, because it was like, this is why I stayed with my abuser. And that's not even social media. That's like total imprudence in like not reading what you're talking about and not understand what you're talking about. So anyways, in the end, social media rewards first-class behavior and punishes improper behavior. So it's kind of a natural reality in social media. It's not just like, hey, you know, you become great in social media by being a jerk and things. Now, Benedict XVI, in his 47th World Day for Communications in 2013, gave a little call to the importance of social media. And I'm going to read 2 quick quotes from him from that message from 2013. Social media thus needs the commitment of all who are conscious of the value of dialogue, reasoned debate, and logical argumentation, of people who strive to cultivate forms of discourse and expression which appeal to the noblest aspiration of those engaged in the communication process. That's the first quote. So you see how it needs the commitment of everybody. And then secondly, social networks will benefit from the full participation of believers who desire to share the message of Jesus and the values of human dignity, which his teaching promotes. Believers are increasingly aware that unless the good news is made known also in the digital world, it may be absent in the experience of people for whom this existential space is important. So it goes back to that idea that Pullman said, that there is no way to not be on social media. Your parish or diocese is on social media. Whether it is officially or it's just through parishioners posting good or bad things about what's happening in the parish, it's on there. Now, an outline. Relationship and engagement drive social media, not static press releases. What we can post, the power of religion, several examples, and a few concluding words. So this one's going to be a little quicker than some of the other ones, because once you have all the concepts, a lot of the things here are just going to be principles, because each specific parish, each specific group is going to have different things it's posting related to that specific parish or that specific group. For instance, if it's a group that goes out and serves the poor and homeless, it's going to be posting different things than a page that's dedicated to reminding people to pray their daily rosary. Both are good, but I would expect the reminder to pray the daily rosary would have a lot of paintings and pictures and quotes from saints about Mary. And the one about serving the poor might have pictures of what they were of the group doing it, might have a quote from Dorothy Day or some other person who went out and served the poor, and it would be a different look, but both of them are building up the church. And I'm just going to give general principles because I don't want to get into all those kind of specific details in a presentation like this. So relationships and engagement. So here's a few things to think about when you're talking about how we take relationships online. And the first one is from Father Daryl from Saskatchewan. And he says that it's generally far better to treat social media like person-to-person or community building than it is to treat it like a broadcast medium. Emphasis on the word social more than media. So the idea is that it's social, it's a relationship. It's me talking to you or me talking to my group of friends, not me broadcasting here on the evening news on whatever your local station is, In a summary, another guy, Lance Rosen, also from Canada, posted, it gave the idea, it's sitting around the virtual campfire. But what is the currency? The currency of social media, this comes from socialnomics, and the idea that currency, in the sense of what do you exchange, what do people give, what do people value, not necessarily dollars, but it's meaningful engagement and value creation, that we engage meaningfully, create value. You look at somebody like Carlo Dolan or Bishop Barron, and if you look at their social media, not kind of Bishop Barron's YouTube page, but things like Twitter, they are far below their off-social media presence and reality. They have low engagement. They really don't respond to people on Twitter, and they have very little content, not their own. Their only posts are like, hey, here's my latest video, hey, here's a picture of me with somebody important, or me doing something that I think is valuable or something. And there is a value to that, it's at least being online, but the amount of their interaction isn't super high, so they don't get, their presence on social media is in a way lower than their presence off social media. Not counting YouTube, because YouTube's kind of separate in how it works from most other social media, because Bishop Barron is really big on YouTube. So you have people like Father Jonathan Morris, Father James Martin, and they're accurate about the social media reality. They have some engagement, they have some sharing of other people's stuff, but they're generally their own things. They're generally seen about as much on social media as they are elsewhere. And you look at somebody like me, and off social media, I'm kind of like not known. It's really interesting. I'll go to a Catholic event, and some people know me super well because they're on Twitter and they see me all the time. And other people will be, who's that? Why are you like know that priest over there? Because they aren't there, and because I have way higher on social media than I have off social media, offline. I'm not like that super well known unless you know me through social media. And why? Because there's a lot of sharing, there's a lot of outreach, there's trying to share how people want now and how I prefer to hear them. I'm always trying to think of like, how can I express the truths of faith in a new way that might touch people? How can I respond to these people? Because I'm getting questions every day and I'm responding to them. And I'm creating value by giving a commentary on the news item. People want to deal with other people on social media, not information walls. Unless you're like a newspaper or an A-list celebrity, they don't want to deal with just, here's what I'm posting, here's what I'm posting. I mean, it's fine if it's like the New York Times, here's the newest New York Times article, here's the newest New York Times article, here's the newest New York Times article. That's what you're expecting from the New York Times. But if it's Joe Smith, you don't want to hear from Joe Smith, here's my blog post, 2 days later, here's my next blog post, 3 days later, here's my next blog post, next day, here's my next blog post. People want more than that. They want something of a kind of engagement. Now, obviously, people realize if you're like an A-list celebrity, they're not going to have time to respond to everybody. But the average one of us do have time to at least respond to a good portion. Person to person is always the best way to evangelize, and we need to help current Catholics. In business, they say it takes about 1/6 the energy to keep a current customer as to get a new customer. And I suspect for religion it's probably similar. For example, like near our house, we have 2 grocery stores that are basically like on opposite sides of a main road. And we generally go to the Giant, which is on our side of the main road. Now, it's going to take Safeway probably about 6 times as much effort and energy to convince us to go across the road to Safeway as it would take Giant to convince us to keep going to Giant every week when we go to the grocery store. And it's the same thing with a church. If you have somebody who kind of shows up, who's kind of involved, it takes a lot less effort to keep that person involved than it is to get somebody else off the street into your church. Now, whether it's exactly 1/6, not 100% sure. That's the ratio used in commercial, and I think it's probably close to that, if not exactly that. So what do we post? We want to post every day or almost every day. Some social media, it really needs to be at least every day, like Twitter. Some could be a few times a week more, like certain, like Facebook or Instagram, are a little more flexible if you're not posting every day, because You know what, you might not find a great picture to post on Instagram every day. I mean, I don't. I post a few times a week on Instagram. Sometimes it goes a week or 10 days and I don't post because I just don't see anything that's like, wow, that's an amazing picture. Because Instagram's more about the picture. And you post similar stuff. You can have several categories. The one who's doing the charity, they might have like, here's pictures of our events, here's reminders for our next event, here's inspirational things about practicing charity. And they consistently post at least one of each of those three at least once a week. And at the same time, you got to be yourself. We need to have that solid Christian formation, but you need to be yourself. People don't like fakes, and if you really go out and reach out, it's much harder to be fake on social media than it is a lot of times. In many ways, offline, because offline you can put up a face. You have a lot of time where you're not with someone, or you're not accessible, and so it's important that young people, to really value that authenticity. Now we need to be intentional and relevant about the content. Post what's relevant to them, not to me, both of their need and interest. One of the things I find is a big difference between people who post and get a lot of reaction and people who post and get a little bit of reaction is the people who post and get a lot of reaction are tending to think before they post about what do all the people who are connected with them want and what's going to react to all of them. Because people who get a small reaction are just thinking, what's the most important thing in my day to me? And that's fine. I mean, it's not like bad if you're just doing it more like just like, hey, here's my, top chatting with my friends. But if you want to do a bigger reach out, to a parish or to reach out beyond that, you need to start thinking about what do the others want. That theory of mind reality, and not just kind of, hey, what's important to me. We've got to tie things like the current events and the gospel and all those things so that it's relevant to the times. Mari Smith, who was considered the queen of Facebook by Guy Kowalski and Peg Fitzpatrick, she says you need to give to others without having an agenda. If you show proof of address helping others, the amount of goodness and reciprocity will surprise you. You want to be able to keep giving to others and not just be like, oh, so sad me, but to keep giving, to keep helping out others. And so that's an important reality on Facebook and on all social media. An interesting thing is if we compare religion with celebrity, we get some really interesting things. There was a study. It said that the average religious leader on Twitter gets one retweet for every 500 followers. So if you have 5,000 followers, you'll probably average about 10 retweets. Whereas the average musician, as a type of celebrity, gets only one retweet for every 30,000 followers. 60 times as much content per user. So that means that the ones who are the religious leaders on social media matter more to their followers than, like Taylor Swift or any other musician, because those Taylor Swift or whatever, they matter to a lot of people, but to the average one of the people they matter in a less deep reality. Religion does have that depth in our being that Taylor Swift losing her boyfriend for the 10th time in her most recent song or whatever might not have. And we need to end the social schizophrenia that release people to ask existential questions. We need to be there to answer. We need to be there to listen when people start asking those tough questions. We need to be ready and not just kind of posting, just posting, here's my next blog, and not really responding. And this goes back to that whole idea that it's engagement and meaningful content creation, not just creating what I think is interesting to me. Now, I'm going to give 3 quick examples. One of them is, first of all, somebody else, and then 2 examples from my own life. So there's the Kiszczak family, which are a family in northern New Jersey, where the dad's a chiropractor, he has a wife and 3 daughters, and they're responsible for getting prayed and abortion trending in the U.S. for 3 days on Twitter a few years ago, and they have hundreds of thousands of followers in their various accounts, and they don't have like these super advanced things what they post, but they do have some really good things that are very simple. They're very direct. They have pro-life quotes of saints, intercessory prayer, and now they start to make a little bit of money. They started selling saint dolls. They're persistent. They're every day. They follow people back. They have the same messages, just repeating the same thing over and over again. And they understand the medium of Twitter, that they're constantly out there pushing to share more and more. And what they're really getting at is to promote and support Catholics, not to really get new converts, because their content is really the value of prayer according to this saint, the importance of the rosary. Now I want to talk about the post I had that had the biggest views. Now, a blog post I had called the 29 most lit signs at the March for Life. The March for Life last year had about, I think, my highest. I'm not sure if how this year did, but It had 140,000 views, which is about 10 times as much as the top post usually on the National Catholic Register for a weekend. So it's a pretty significant audience. And it links to an event people are interested in, the March for Life. Well, I'll give you a different perspective, the best signs. And so how is it viral here? The title has a number. It's promising pictures of people. And it uses a kind of term lit, which was kind of the in term last year. It's kind of fallen out of favor a little bit in the last year or so. And at the same time, it's content heavy. It has the arguments, but it has them in an attractive format. It has the people holding the sign, not just here's 29 pro-life arguments in a very pragmatic thing. Now, I just want to explain a little bit of what I do and how I got big, because I think a lot of people are wondering, like, how on earth did you do it? And I mean, I didn't want to make this mainly about me, but I think it's worthwhile mentioning my own work in the end here. So, when I was a religious brother, I was working with youth ministry, and I really saw that our youth ministry programs really needed a lot of things to improve. And so I was really involved with a big rewrite of the Conquest and Challenge programs. In fact, if you look at the back of many of the books right now, my name's still in there. And so when I went to Rome, after I'd been working as a brother, I went to Rome to study theology, and I wanted to keep working on this rewrite, and at the same time, share other ideas about Catholic youth ministry with other youth ministers. So I started a blog. I called it 22 Catholic. The first 2 months, nobody was seeing the blog. I posted like this and sent an email to some people, and I get 5 or 10 people seeing it. I'm like, that's not good. So I asked around, well, how do you get people to see it? They say, oh, go on Facebook, go on Twitter. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll go on Facebook, go on Twitter. And this was late 2011, so November, December 2011, when I started going on Facebook and Twitter. And I started supplementing blog posts with other quotes and other links, so I'd have at least one post a day, even though I was only blogging, once every week or two. And then I started doing a few different things. One of the big things was a big campaign to thank Pope Benedict on social media right when he resigned, which was February 2012, so just like 2 or 3 months afterwards. And that spring 2012, at one point I was gaining 1,000 followers like every 2 weeks. Boom, 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 boom. Just exponential growth, really fast, and becoming all of a sudden from nobody to a decent, noticeable figure. And then it's slowly grown, but it has kind of leveled off. Right now I have about 46,000 followers, and I post 10 times a day or so. And on the monthly average of what I post, I get about a little over 2 million views of what I post on Twitter. And of that I get about a 3% reaction rate, so about 70,000 people interacting, either retweeting, favoriting, clicking on a link, replying, things like that. And there's a lot of different things I do, like following up on the hashtags that are on social media on Twitter, posting about news articles about the day, being very clear in messages about issues, and quoting relevant church documents from years ago about something that happened today. On Facebook, I'm much more I'm still on the kind of the outlier, but I'm reasonable. I have about 2,000 friends and about 1,400 followers. I post 1, 2, 3 times a day. Instagram, it's about 9,000 followers. I post, it really varies, 1 to 5 times a week, because it's really like when I see really nice pictures or really amazing memes. A lot of my Instagram is pictures I take myself, which some weeks in my daily life I just won't find any that are really like that amazing. And so it's really a lot more dependent on how things are happening in my life than the others are. So Curtis Martin gave an address to the USCCB in 2015 that's important. Catechesis addresses, I don't know. Evangelization addresses, I don't care. And that's what we have to do today. Not just I don't know, but I don't care on social media. And some last words. Social media requires a mentality shift, both on and offline. But at the same time, this matches human psychology and what we saw in the beginning. Evangelization is a task of all on social media, but social media also allows all to do it. Don't think like, oh my goodness, you just told us you had 46,000 followers and all these things you're doing. Like, if you don't have a social media account, start with that. Start up a social media account. Share a spiritual reflection with your friend if you have one, and just be more sharing how your tomatoes are growing and what you think of your local mayor or something. And spend a little bit of time planning when you're planning an event to think about how is this going to play on social media. Don't try and jump from first gear to fifth gear. Go up a gear at a time. It's a lot better on your engine. And I think there's an important thing to conclude with. In 2000 at World Youth Day, John Paul II told young people, be not afraid to be the saints of the millennium. I think part of this can be translated for social media. Be not afraid to share your faith online.